Hello, everybody. It is me, 7th Hanuman. Today is August 29th, 2022. I know it's late, but I want to make this short live stream. So for today, I want to update everybody on the Marlow case. And I want to respond to Absentminded Abe on the comment that he left for that video, the previous video I made on Marlow. And I want to say the reason Abe made the comment, it's not or was not because of him. It was because of his dumpster stain gang stalkers. And I know when he wrote that comment, he was frustrated because I went through similar situation where the gang stalkers frustrated me and it caused me to behave a certain way, somewhat aggressive and confrontational. And that is my opinion on why Abe left the comment. So I took my time earlier and made this video for Abe. And mainly is to let him know that I'm not mad at him. I know it's his dumpster stain gang stalkers that made him think a certain way. And I want to help Abe because I feel he is going through the danger zone right now. And in the end of this live, I will play a video, one of my video, and you will understand what I meant by the danger zone. So I will play this video for you guys. Here we go. So this has nothing to do with going against Abe. I'm just trying to help him. So I made this video on Marlow. And last night, Abe wrote this comment. He's basically saying Marlow is a lot smarter. And I'm just not smart because I talk about spiritual stuff. I'm not mad at him.
The type of career that he had, the type of degree that he had, without being highly intelligent, because there's only a small niche group of people that can actually do that, and who do it and actually are successful. So the dude went on to a supervisory type position doing it, so he was clearly highly successful at what he did, right? So XE, JED, yeah, same bullshit.
So what Abe was saying in today's video that he made about Marlow was that the guy is some type of venture capitalist and he was making good money. And that's such a niche type of profession that he's very smart to be in that profession. And I don't disagree with that. You know, that is a niche profession.
So anyways, he's experiencing this stuff at the same time. Got a kid with the bike, red socks, red shorts. These fucking losers, man. Unbelievable. Let me get past these fucking losers. Continue on with the story. I got a while to go before I get to my starting running point. All right. It's only the clear again, right? So, yeah, he's noticing this ventriloquism that's happening on these sites. He starts getting the voices, basically V2K. They're beaming V2K at him. He can tell it's V2K because he can actually detect on multiple instances is the directions of which the sounds are coming from. He can actually pick it up. So keep in mind, too, all these emails were emails that he sent out to the FBI and CIA, apparently. And this whole thing could be a psyop with him. It could be bullshit. The guy may not have ever killed anybody. These people that were claimed to be murdered, they may have never been murdered. All of this could be a fucking psyop for the fucking federal government. Okay? That's the truth. It could be. But as we get more into this, I think you're going to see that it's going to make a little bit more sense.
For me, it was an easy decision, Marlow allegedly told an investigator when asked how he felt about the events of August 5th, Vandalia County filings show. Police said Marlow entered two homes that morning located at 7120 Hardwick Place and shot 41-year-old Sarah Anderson and her 15-year-old daughter, Kayla, multiple times. He then traveled next door to 7214 Hardwick Place, where he fatally shot 82-year-old Clyde Knox and 78-year-old Eva Knox multiple times before fleeing the scene, according to an affidavit. Between houses, a witness saw and confronted Marlow, who was allegedly holstering a gun and made a vague threat to the witness. A second witness saw a man matching Marlow's description leave 7214 Hardwick Avenue in a vehicle after hearing gunshots. When the witness went to check in on his neighbors, he found the Knoxes deceased in their garage. Additionally, security footage from Sarah Anderson's garage allegedly shows Marlow entering her garage and shooting her multiple times before going inside the home to kill Kayla.
So this is the home of Sarah Anderson. Just want to show you what their home looks like. So Stephen Marlow went inside this home, or shot her in the garage, and then went inside the home to kill the daughter, and then walked across the street and went to this house and killed the Knox family. So this is the type of neighborhood the victim lived in. And Stephen Marlow's parents' home was nearby.
All of this could be a fucking psyop for the fucking federal government. Okay? That's the truth. It could be. But as we get more into this, I think you're going to see that it's going to make a little bit more sense. So as time goes on and he's experiencing all this stuff, he starts to...
I want to clarify something. When Abe made this video, he was under state of trance because he believed the murder and the dead victim is a psyop, or it's either fake or stage or whatever. He made that claim was because he was in a heavy state of trance.
Obviously, he's freaking out.
Now, once you realize points to skull, that's where the battle really happens. Because, I always preach you guys no fear. When you have no fear mentality, you have home court advantage. And this voice to skull in your mind, you have to be the Superman or the Superwoman.
And he tries to see if these people will tell him like the right things to do in situations. So he's trying to determine whether or not they're good or they're bad. And so he shows up to his buddy's house, somebody that he was best friends with, or real close friends with for a long time. And he's suspecting of them as being involved in like this sort of thing. He actually thinks that they might be one of the people who are actually talking to him with his V2K. So he goes to his house. He's sitting out front of his house with a firearm. He doesn't know what to do. And he basically says that he gets one of these driver conniver gang stalkers that comes by, says some shit, so he takes it as positive reassurance that he's at the right place and he's got the right guy.
When you're in this stage, you have to do your investigative work. Whatever your mind is thinking about that are in fear, you're going to need to figure out a solution. You have to investigate, are those people really the gang stalkers? You hear voices coming from that direction, okay, out in public? You need to go talk to those people in a friendly, nice way, engage in small talks, and try to match the voices. That's what I did. And the voices don't match. So that's how I mean, that's only one example, but eventually I realized people in public are not the gang stalkers. And once you figure out this stage, for me, that's when the voice to skull came in. Because in the beginning, I would hear them on the outside a lot, you know, on the other side of the wall. When I go driving, I would hear them in someone else's car if they have their radios on. So, and I would believe, oh, it's this driver next to me.
So he goes in, pulls the firearm on his buddy, situation breaks down. That's how he actually ends up getting probation and getting sent to jail. And again, like when you think about this and you connect this to the Michael Barden story, they seem somewhat similar. So this guy goes to jail, but he's not in jail that long, apparently. He just basically gets a lot of probation as a result of it. And he's back out on the street, same shit. Gang stalking, V2K, all that stuff. This was when the V2K started, was when he got out of jail, he says, and he was on probation. He said because they started gang stalking him more because he suspects that they were doing it to try to antagonize him because he was already on probation. And they knew that he literally couldn't fuck up in the slightest, or else he was going to go back to fucking jail.
So now I will play the video that I made months ago explaining the stages of gang stalking.
In today's video, it's going to be really good information. Straight to the point. No run around. It's just the way it is. Now, TIs, we go through gang stalking. So you know you're a TI because you have gone this far. You know about gang stalking, which is a modern day term. And once you figure this out, the way I see it is you go on your passage, your journey. And this passage, the time frame is not set. So for some of you, it might take you years to figure it out, while others might just take a few months, or some would just never, ever move higher in the passage. If anything, they go backwards into the danger zone. So in the passage is when you recognize voice to skull. When you're in gang stalking, this is the part where a TI did not recognize voice to skull yet. And he or she would believe, oh, people in public are the gang stalkers, and they don't hear any voices in their head. So that just means they are still here at the gang stalking stage, which is a very basic stage. And the gang stalkers, they would love to keep you here on the stage, because that means they got you exactly where they want you, which is confused, which is scared, vulnerable, and isolated. That TI would run away from family, friends, and loved ones, and just upset or just angry and really, really scared of what's happening. When you're in this stage, you have to do your investigative work. Whatever your mind is thinking about that are in fear, you're going to need to figure out a solution. You have to investigate, are those people really the gang stalkers? You hear voices coming from that direction, okay, out in public. You need to go talk to those people in a friendly, nice way, engage in small talks, and try to match the voices. That's what I did. And the voices don't match. So that's how I mean, that's only one example, but eventually I realized people in public are not the gang stalkers. And once you figure out this stage, for me, that's when the voice to skull came in. Because in the beginning, I would hear them on the outside a lot, on the other side of the wall. When I go driving, I would hear them in someone else's car if they have their radios on. So, and I would believe, oh, is it this driver next to me? I'd go into stores, out in public, I would hear them from a direction where people are, and I would think, oh, I would get thoughts, oh, are those the gang stalkers? So once I figured out people in public are not gang stalkers, and there's a while where I just kind of stayed home, where I was isolated from the outside, and knowing where I live, I have no neighbors that are close enough to really make me believe, oh, it's the neighbors. Even though in the beginning I thought it was the neighbors, but eventually I realized there's no way those neighbors can scream out so loud where I can hear them, literally like they're just right there. And that's where I realized, okay, something else is going on, and that's when I discovered voice to skull. Is when they start talking to me in isolation. Now, once you realize voice to skull, that's where the battle really happens. Because, I always preach you guys no fear. When you have no fear mentality, you have home court advantage. And this voice to skull in your mind, you have to be the Superman or the Superwoman. You have to be in charge of your own battlefield, of your own home court. And that's where no fear, talking trash, and don't believe their words, and just repeat the same one or two phrases to them. I like to repeat the FU to them using my mind, or in audios, super low volume, just FU, 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 over and over and over again in the background. That's what I like to do. It's fun to me, knowing that they get irritated. So you'll be in this stage passage, recognizing voice to skull for a while. And for me, it took about 2.5 years. And during this stage, you'll actually learn a lot about what's going on. You actually discover that this whole time you've been receiving voice to skull. And also, the voices you hear outside are not that far away. They're closer than you think or than you believe. Actually, they're literally right next to you. And eventually I got to a point where I realized there's something else beyond voice to skull. There's a lower voice to skull. And that have to do with feelings, right? That's really dangerous. That's where I recognize, oh, all those thoughts that I thought I was right turns out to be just coming from this. So when you recognize this part, that to me is we become an enlightened individual or enlightened individuals. There's still a lot of work to be done here, but once you recognize lower voice to skull, like I did, I see the world completely differently. There's a lot more information out there. Just clicked. Everything just clicked. And answers questions like, are we alone? Is there life after death? And is there a God? Once you reach here, this is where the fun begins. Because, like I always tell you guys, you're in the driver's seat. If you can reach here, you have a lot of fun. All this seems like a long time ago. That's why I'm easy breezy. No fear. You have to have no fear to have a good passage, to reach this part, to be enlightened. You don't understand no fear, and you're in your passage. You still believe it's the government, you believe it's your friends, your family, all this other stuff. All those are lies coming from this. But you don't realize that because you haven't recognized this yet, the lower voice of skull. When you haven't recognized lower voice of skull, you actually believe it's your own thoughts. That, oh, your family's involved, that your roommates are involved, that your landlord's involved, that your girlfriend, boyfriends are involved, that your husband, wives are involved, that coworkers are involved. No, they're not. Now that I'm here, I see all of them as TIs. Just like you and I. But they just don't realize. But since you're a TI, you realize, and you're most likely here, if you believe your family's involved and your friends and loved ones, then you're only listening to this lower voice of skull. And you're believing it, thinking it's your own thoughts, but it's not. So if you don't understand, you have to reach the lower voice of skull. If you believe everyone around you are the gang stalkers, then over time, you're just gonna be in the danger zone. You're gonna basically reach an area that's gonna be extremely hard to get out of. Because you already experienced so much other things, and so far they're not helping you. Now you're actually going backwards and falling deeper into the gang stalking trap. And now you're actually in the danger zone because you already believe everyone's around you is involved. You believe anyone you live with are involved. You believe if you get a job, your coworker, your boss, everyone's involved. You even believe emergency response are involved. Police, fire trucks, firefighters, paramedics. You think all of them are involved. Doctors gonna be involved. Dentists are involved. Like, you're in danger zone. And this is the area where I've seen videos of some TIs stuck for 30 years running away from helicopters, thinking any helicopters above their head are there to spy on him or her. That's a terrible life, terrible way to live, a terrible way to end. This part, the passage, you watch my videos, I don't see why you wouldn't get here. Because I'm the best. If I helped you in any way, please subscribe and like, because that's what motivates me to make more videos. Until then, no fear. Practice talking trash using your mind. And if you disagree with the things I just said, one day you can understand. I hope. Shimon, signing out.
Okay, so that video was for Abe and the audience. But I just want to say I'm not mad at Abe for making a comment like that. It's his decision and his opinion. But I agree that Stephen Marlow was very intelligent up to the point that he murdered the 4 victims. And after he went to jail and got the probation for pulling a gun on one of his best friend, That should have been a wake-up call for him. But he fell into the danger zone, and then he was just stuck there. And eventually led up to that day where he was probably pissed off for whatever reason and decided to go kill the neighbors because he believed the neighbors were sleeper cell terrorists and they were mind controlling him. If Stephen Marlow understood the no fear mentality, those voice to skull would be manageable, and also he would have figured something out eventually. But since he was very strong-headed and also got that pride in him where he felt like he needs to do something for a sense of justice, even though those thoughts, the sense of justice that led up to him murdering people, was false. It was a lie from the voice to skull, the lower voice to skull. But notice how the two work together. So he's hearing voice to skull, and then the lower voice to skull was encouraging him to do something about it. Notice how the two work together. Just like how when you're out in public and you see someone you believe is a gang stalker, well, guess what? Why would a TI think that person is a gang stalker right away? That's because the lower voice to skull told the TI to think that the person out there in public is a gang stalker. So it's working 1 and 2. So if Stephen Marlow was receiving voice to skull and he looked in the direction and he saw the neighbor standing outside, the lower voice to skull would kick in and tell Stephen Marlow, that's the gang stalker. They come together, 1, 2. There's no other thoughts other than the first thought that comes in to tell Stephen Marlow, those are the gang stalkers. And just so happened, the neighbors were just outside and he was messed with the voice to skull in that direction. Notice how they just come 1 and 2, just like that. And if the TI buys into that idea, that is trouble. And that's why I called him an idiot, because he didn't even think about confirming on those thoughts, on the theory that he got, if the neighbors were really using mind control on him. He just believed in it, just like that. No question, nothing. He just believed in it. And he was just living there every day, believing in the neighbors are there mind controlling him. And this goes back to where he was living. Even though it was a nice neighborhood, there were still neighbors really close by. And that's why I tend to tell you guys that, if you live in an area with a lot of neighbors, it would be tough for you. Just by chance that I moved to this location, I don't have neighbors nearby. And that's why I can investigate and discover these things. And that's why I'm sharing it with you guys. But I can also understand if you have a lot of neighbors, it's tough for you. It's very tough for you. So you're just going to have to do some extra work on investigating and try to figure it out. But that is just putting your mind into gang stalking even more. The best advice I can give you guys is just practice stopping those negative thoughts. You have to first recognize what are negative thoughts. And once you recognize these negative thoughts, practice stopping it. It's going to take time, but practice stopping those negative thoughts. For Stephen Marlow, the lower voice to skull kicked in and reminding him, oh, those are the gang stalkers, those neighbors, the next thought, Stephen Marlow should put a stop to it and change it to something more positive. But I can guess that since he didn't put a stop to it, after he looked up and saw the neighbors and believed they were the gang stalkers, the next thought that he had was more about gang stalking and more about the neighbors being gang stalkers, or more about those neighbors are the ones doing the V2K, the mind control. So who knows how much longer he was stuck in those thoughts, that sequence of thoughts. And he was probably stuck there for hours. Can you imagine spending hours of your life every day thinking the neighbors are the gang stalkers and they're using mind control and V2K on you? That is terrible. But that's what happened to him. And he committed murder, and now he's going to be in prison for life. And he's also bringing a lot of attention, negative attention, to the TI community. So for us TIs in this community, now we're going to have to be even extra careful when it comes to making videos, when it comes to things we're saying, and the way we behave in public, because this Stephen Marlow character really bring a lot of heat into the community, and they're not good. Our image is not good. That is because the majority of the TIs do not recognize that they're being messed with by the lower voice to skull and the voice to skull. So this community, this TI community, is in trouble after what Stephen Marlow did. And it's not the first time that TIs are in the news media as murderers. This is not good for the community. But the only thing that we can do now, and my advice to you as a TI, is just try to be professional. Try not to use any explicit language, and try to present yourself as professional as possible, because the entire United States, the media outlets, they think of us as crazy people. And once they think of us as crazy people, that's going to be hard to reverse. So now it's tougher to be a TI than ever, more than ever. And I'm just going to be as professional as possible, and I hope that you guys, the audience, will do the same. Because, once you get into trouble, no one's going to be there to help you. No one can agree with you. No one's going to validate your situation. You're on your own. There's no professional medical people who's going to come to your aid and tell the people or the law authority that, oh, he's going through gang stalking, and his gang stalking is real. I mean, it's going to be difficult to find anyone to help you if you get into trouble. And that's a fact. It's just the way the world sees us. And it's not a good thing. So I hope from now on, all you TIs out there will act professionally, because the odds are against us. Well, that's all for now. Thank you for joining me. Take care of yourself. Shimo signing out.